Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of Legend from the Past and the Future Show. Good evening, team. How you doing, Mr. Yanamuya?
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing, Raj?
Good evening, everybody. Hanging on in there. Everything's great. Little rough weather, but everything's good.
Good. Now, before we get to our guest tonight, Yana was at a pretty good event over this weekend. He was with
Hollywood. Hollywood.
she was with the Commanders. That's like Hollywood. Talk about your event that you went to Saturday, Yana.
So I attended a gala. It was for NFL legends. It was celebrating some legends from the Commanders. So Roger, sorry to tell you, but it was for the Commanders,
Oh, that's all right.
and they were honoring Santana Moss. They honored Brian Mitchell as well as Terry McLaurin. And it was hosted by another legend, Gary Clark.
Oh boy, I tell you, man. Did you see those photos she posted on Facebook, bro?
I saw him, but the real thing gonna be when the Ravens had one. But
Oh, really?
we ain't been there that long. We are very Ravens really young. They came in the league in '97, so they ain't
That's
got
that's that's
they ain't
long
got
enough
a whole
to.
lot of
You have
money.
legends. You have
Huh?
legends. You have legends on the Ravens as well.
Not like Washington. I mean, they got Daryl Green. If you go back, I mean, they got a bunch.
We have a bunch. That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
a long way
All
to go.
right, we're gonna get to our guest. She's a senator. She's a senator, and I know she's a very busy senator. So without further ado, we're gonna bring the Honorable Senator Shaneka Henson to the stage.
Hey,
How
Hey,
you doing?
welcome.
how is everybody?
Uh,
Good.
every, everybody's fine, and welcome to the Legends of the Past and Future show, Senator.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was told that this is an amazing show. You all have interviewed athletes, Grammy Award winning artists, folks who have done major things and are really out here inspiring people to live their best life and accomplish their dreams. So I'm happy to be in the number.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Well, what we do first on the show, we go back down memory lane. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
Annapolis, Maryland. I had the opportunity to participate recently in giving the key to the city to Kendall Dorsey. And what I said at that presentation was true. Growing up in Annapolis, Maryland prepares you to be great anywhere in the world. You grow up in a city that has history, that has culture, that has government, that has everything right here in your hometown. And if you can be fabulous and amazing and intelligent in Annapolis, you're ready for the world.
Wow. Now, what did you do while growing up? Were you athletic or were you a cheerleader? And what school did you go to?
So I went through the public school system in Anne Arundel County. I started off at Tyler Heights Elementary, and I always go back to Tyler Heights and always reach back to those students and see what they're up to and support in every way I can. Then I went through Bates Middle School. I did some
Hmm.
time at Bates Middle School.
Okay.
I went to Annapolis High School, but I ultimately graduated from Broadneck High School.
Oh,
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. In
oh,
high school, I was all about the books. I was that person who was studying hard, working hard. I was in ROTC when I was at Annapolis. So, that gives you discipline and focus, and it teaches you how to present yourself well and how to understand chain of command and really move through life with order. So, if I had to identify with any group in school, it was those kids who were doing everything they could to get to the next level.
man, you're on point. I tell you that you look. What more could be said? ROTC, discipline, chain of command. Come on, now. But I'm gonna
What
ask you two questions.
ROTC though? Was it Army?
It was
Was it?
Navy.
Oh,
We
okay.
let you slide. We let you slide.
Hey, so ma'am, I'm going to ask you two questions, Senator, and then I'm going to pass you on to Yanamu Yam. Okay. So why do you feel you were the best choice to fill the vacant Senate seat?
Oh, I love this question and I appreciate you asking it. And I appreciate that even the premise of your question is that the best person is the one who should get the job. Because so often in politics, people don't follow a system of merit. In politics, it's based on who you know, it's based on who you've done a favor for, it's based on who owes you one back, instead of who's the best person for the job. When I stack my credentials up against the other people who went for the job, I thought, I hope that this is a process that has fairness because I came into the seat being a licensed practicing attorney, been an attorney for 15 years. This is my hometown. I am from Annapolis. So every part of what I do, every inch of the community I serve, it is all personal to me. I served at a city council level, at a House of Delegates level. I was our longest serving delegate coming into it. So when I looked at the other folks who were interested in the job, I thought, God bless, but I should be the clear winner. So I'm so glad that that's how it worked out in the end.
So now, how does it feel to be a history maker?
I'm telling you, I absorb it. There are moments where it feels really close to me and it is on the top of my mind when I'm speaking to young people and I'm sharing with them the journey to get there. When I share with young Black girls, I'm the first Black woman to represent us, but I don't plan on being the last. And I try to inspire and motivate people and open the door in a way that they can see themselves in this role. I know when I first ran for office, I had never envisioned myself in the Maryland Senate. And I look back and realize a part of the reason is because no one who looked like me had ever served representing our district. So it is difficult to be something that you can't see. So one of the great joys I have in this job is changing the landscape of what it looks like to be the senator. You can be a Black woman. Your name can be Shaneka. You can be somebody who represents your culture and your community with pride. And you can also be an effective and wonderful senator.
Hey, man, that's what I'm talking about. Ayana, on to you.
I don't know, Armand. I mean, he just went full throttle. Just boom. I mean, back the car up a little bit,
Yes, indeed.
Car in reverse just a little bit. And so I just kind of wanted to ask you, so what college did you go to? he just went from Broadneck to senator.
You're
Let's
right.
talk in between there.
You're right. It's a lot of story in between there.
And what made you want to become an attorney?
Wonderful. I graduated from the Coppin State University, my lovely, lovely alma mater, named after Fannie Jackson Coppin, who started a school in 1902 to educate folks to be teachers, to educate the next cohort of Black teachers. And that school was able to extend on and to still be there when I needed a college that suited my needs. Halfway through college, I came home and shared with my parents, hey, mom, hey, dad, I'm pregnant and I'm going to be a mom. And so that totally changed the shape of my college education. Before then, I was away at school at University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, 100 miles away from my family, from my support system. And when I had my son in my summer of my junior year, I was able to come back to school and go to Coppin State, and it was everything I needed. The class sizes were small. The professors knew me by name. They cared about me and my family and my success. They nurtured the talent that was in me that could go to law school and be successful. They saw it and they helped me develop the confidence to really pursue that dream, even though I was a young mom. So Coppin State University always has my support. I'm always proud to say I'm a Coppin Eagle. And I try to make sure that, as our president says, he doesn't want Coppin to be the best kept secret in West Baltimore. He wants everybody to know the great quality education you can have there.
Wow.
That is amazing. I love your story. And so at what point did you decide that you wanted to become an attorney?
You know, growing up, I was always attracted to the law. When I was 9 years old, Thurgood Marshall died. And I remember thinking, who is this great man that everybody's speaking so highly of? And so I researched him and I saw his life and his legacy, what he did as an attorney for civil rights with the NAACP, his work on Brown versus Board of Education and integrating our school systems, and some of the other cases he took on, getting his start right here in Maryland, right here in Annapolis, Maryland, when he took on the case of Walter S. Mills, who was suing the Anne Arundel County public school system for not paying Black teachers, yes, as much as they paid white teachers. And Thurgood Marshall walked these same streets and he saw the injustices, but he didn't stop at just observing them. He used the law as a vehicle for change. So I was so inspired by the work that he'd done that it motivated me to want to be an attorney. So I was the inspirations along the way. It was him. And then it was another very prominent and influential attorney that really turned my attention towards the law.
Wonderful, wonderful. Roger?
Yeah, with all the education you have, why didn't you go down that route? The education route, being a teacher, principal.
That's an excellent question. That's something I entertain at this time in my life, looking at what the skills that I've been able to acquire over time, the ways that God has blessed me to be able to gain so much perspective by way of crafting the law and then walking into a courtroom and practicing the law. I think the day will come where I probably stand in front of a classroom and get to share those gifts with other young people.
Yeah, because it's important for our young ladies to see someone like you, face to face, in that classroom time, to hear your story, especially being a young mother and accomplishing as much as you have already. And you on the road, So, well, I'm gonna ask that question about, how did you feel, or was the best person for the job? You already said you came from A-Town, so right away the motherfucker competition. It's already done, So here's my question. I have a question for you. College or trade school? What do you think that the value of those are for the young people today? Because a lot of them can't go to college, financial.
I agree. I support both. I have a scholarship that I give out. We've given out over $275,000 in scholarship money. And my scholarship goes to young and entering college students, returning college students, people who go to trade school, folks who are figuring out what sort of education and credentials they need to accomplish their goals and dreams. That's who we support with the scholarship. So I'm a big believer in both college and trade school. It all depends on what path works best for you.
Right. Now, violence. And I hate to throw a damper on this, because you're doing so well. It's been a long time since and I was in the presence of two good-looking women at the same time. But anyway, I had to put that out there. Tuesday, we had an incident at Meade Village. And I was looking at your Facebook thing. I saw where they thank you for, the help that you did and everything, your involvement, even though that's not your district. How do you think we're doing with this gun violence thing? Is it worse than what it is? Is it equal? I mean, do we have any plans in the future to just cut it all out? Because from what I'm gathering from the street and hearsay, because I know some people, it pretty much was over a basketball game.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up and making sure it's a part of the conversation. I first want to offer my condolences to the family, to everyone who loved and supported and cared for those young men. When you have moments like this and you get to spend time with the family, I've not yet spent time with that family, but in the years of my public service, spending time with the grieving families, no matter what the world thought of that person, they meant the world to somebody.
Absolutely.
So my heart breaks for them. It is an awful and terrible thing to have someone torn away from you by violence. No one has the right to take anybody else's life. God gives life. We don't have the right to take it. So I am torn up by that. To your question of, well, we're hitting the benchmark. Are we keeping our community safe? Are we offering alternatives to violence? Right. I think we are taking a different approach. We are looking at not just the criminal justice system as a place to punish people and hopefully rehabilitate people, but we are now on the front end looking at how you prevent violence. There is a team, a violence interruption team that operates in Eastport and Annapolis and then does some work in the Meade area as well. I know they'll be hosting a rally this Saturday, but there are young men and young women who know intimately the problems and the challenges and the conflict that leads to violence. And they are in the communities every day, helping people resolve those simple conflicts that might escalate to something awful. So I think we have to continue with the approach that addresses it from all sides. We need jobs and opportunity. We need schools for our kids that truly educates them and empowers them. We need resources and support for families. We need to not separate fathers from households, but allow people to grow and build their families together in a way where the government isn't the thing coming in and dividing. We need real consequences and solution. When someone does the act of taking someone's life, they need to know that there will be justice for that family and there will be consequences for those actions. But then they also need to know that if they do the work of investing in themselves and truly committing themselves to rehabilitation and turning their life around, that we will also meet that with an appropriate response and make sure that there are opportunities to take what they've learned and help the next person not find themselves there.
Oh, that's awesome. So you running in the next presidential race, right? I'm making a note. Vote for her.
I appreciate
right
it.
away.
I'm going to give it to Armin.
Senator, you preaching. You make me feel like I'm in church tonight. And both your parents were pastors, correct?
Absolutely right.
So, what was it that made you not follow their footsteps?
I think in some ways I have. I think back to the work, the type of pastor that my dad was. We were in the communities every day, all weekend long. We were giving out food, clothes, school supplies, prayer, love, whatever it was that met people's needs. We did that work together as a family. And when I was a kid, it was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the mall with my friends and hang out and do everything everybody else was doing. But my dad kept us close. And now he jokes. He says, work I used to have to pull you by the coattail to do. Now you work real hard for the opportunity to serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your legislation. Let's talk about your mold legislation and what makes it important.
I appreciate you uplifting and highlighting that. There are so many families who are struggling with the issue of mold in rental housing. I remember in the pandemic when the guidance was stay home so you can stay safe. And I thought for so many of the families who have come my way, I knew that wasn't true. I knew that staying home meant being stuck in conditions where they had mold in their housing. People who've shown us awful things that no one should be forced to endure. Mold on all your personal items, mold growing up the wall, in the air ducts. We've had children with chronic asthma missing time from school, babies with skin rashes, women who had all sorts of awful conditions and infections because of the mold that existed in their home. So I started this journey about 5 years ago, trying to elevate this issue so that we could take action in the General Assembly. And after putting in a bill year after year after year, we finally got a work group convened where we pulled in industry experts. We brought in the indoor air quality experts, the industrial hygienists. We brought in the remediators, the code enforcement officers, and put everybody at a table and said, what do we need to do to solve this problem in Maryland? Because 16 other states and Washington, D.C., they have legislation that addresses mold, but we didn't have any statewide standards. And I said, if Florida can do it, if Louisiana can do it, places that have much more humid climate and temperatures, then we can solve it in Maryland. So that work group put together 4 recommendations, and I have put those in a bill, and it is working its way through the General Assembly this session.
Wow. Well, talk about your pregnant and parent legislation.
I appreciate you lifting that up. That bill feels very personal for me because, like I said, it's a part of my story. I found out I was going to be a mom when I was 19 years old. I was on a college campus, 100 miles away from my family, from my doctors, from all of my support system. And the thought that races through your mind when you're a young girl and you get this news that'll change your life forever. Now, I was blessed with a great family that embraced me and supported me. But I thought, what if you weren't? What if you don't have that? You need resources. You need help and support. So what that bill would do is provide resources to young families who find themselves in that position. and I introduced the bill and passed it in the House last year, but our system requires passing it in the House and the Senate. But in the House testimony, we had a young man come and testify, and he was a Division I athlete. He wound up playing professional football after college, and he testified about being a young father who was in college, who was a scholarship athlete, and who was worried, how do I keep my scholarship but support my partner while we are starting this family? It wasn't their plan, but it was the blessing that God gave them. So I thought, this is not just a women's issue. Of course, it affects us because we carry and we give life, but it affects families in general. So I'm so proud of this work. It will make sure that if another young lady finds themselves in that situation, that they will be met with resources and help.
Amen. Amen.
Absolutely.
On you, Yana.
Well, first I want to say thank you for your legislation around that. That's also my story. I was pregnant at 19 in college, and I don't even think Armand and Roger knew that. But my first child, I was pregnant at 19, and I was in college as well. So thank you for everything you're doing around those issues. So right now we are in a very difficult political climate. First, I just want to ask you personally, how are you coping?
I appreciate that. Thank you for the wellness check in terms of what it feels like to be in politics at a time where people's fears are so high, and intentionally people's fears are being worked on and played on and used like cannon fodder by people who want to extract the emotion they want out of people so they can have their way. So it is a tumultuous time in politics. And one of the things that I just hope and pray is that people don't get so turned off that they check out, because decisions are being made every day. The decisions we make in the Maryland Senate affect all 6 million people in the state of Maryland. The decisions that our Congress is making and our legislators at municipal, county, whatever level of government, we are impacted by those decisions. So it's so easy to say, I'm just going to tune off and turn everything off and tune out. But we really have to stay engaged.
That's good.
Absolutely. And so how are you doing?
I love that. Thank you for
talking
putting
about
that.
everybody else.
I'm doing. I was saying to my staff that we work incredibly hard in this office. Most weeks we work 7 days a week in this office. If you see me somewhere, my team is somewhere not far behind. If I'm on, they are on. So people see and appreciate the work, and I'm thankful for that. But we work incredibly hard because we understand what's at stake. So check in with me in a few months and say, did you take some time?
Yeah, absolutely, Roger. It's on you.
Yeah, Senator. I'm glad you got that thing going with the mold, because when I was in the Army, I was a chemical, biological, explosive, radiological, nuclear guy, and not to say anything, it wasn't a whole bunch of us in there, but one of our extra duties was to go to housing and check mold. Wow. And black mold is an airborne virus, and it's very, very dangerous. But let me tell you how the military handled it. Now, we were going to, the houses was together, side by side. So, one unit. So when you go in there, if we found mold in the house and on the end of the house, one unit, and then we go down to the other unit, they all set up, like apartments, and found mold anywhere else in that complex. The military will move those families out.
That's right.
And tear that place down.
That's
and rebuild it. And I don't know if we have that type of finance, because they got their own engineers and all that type of stuff. So and their own parts that they need, brick mason. So it didn't cost them anything to do that. But I'm glad you on that, because that is very, very dangerous. Because if you breathe in those airborne spores, they can actually start forming on your lungs.
That's right. That's right. I believe that mold will one day, hopefully we will conquer it. But if not, it has the potential to be explosive as what happened with lead-based paint. And you see the lawsuits from it. I think mold is another biohazard that if we don't check, it will get out of our hands.
Yeah. What do you think, and if you can't answer this question, that's fine, of the upper echelons of our legislation, the orange guy and those people? Do you think the things that They got, see, I'm the down and dirty one. But do you think, do you see, how can I put this? Because a whole bunch of 4-letter words coming to my head. But um, do you think it's good or bad? Let's go with it. Do you see any light in the tunnel?
I will start with what I see that's not good, and then end on a positive reflection. The things that are being done to federal employees and the stress that's being caused, the layoffs, the firings. We have over 225,000 federal employees who live in the state of Maryland alone. Right. And to hear the stories from constituents and to see the stress that's being caused, folks who are having to jump through hoops they never had to, just to be able to perform their service to the country, to the government that they do as a federal worker. The disrespect that has been shown to people is unreal. My mother was a federal career employee. She worked for the United States Department of Agriculture. And what she was able to do for our family by way of her job that she poured everything into, I know it's one of the reasons why I'm successful today. So to think that those opportunities are being snatched from hardworking people, it is sickening. It is heartbreaking. It is, I can't conceive that this is where we are and that we're supposed to think that it's okay. But when I think of any positivity that might come out of this, the Legislative Black Caucus hosted the other day a meet and greet, a mixer with the Maryland, some of our Black Bar Association. So Anne Arundel County Black Bar Association, Monumental City in Baltimore, J. Franklin Bourne from Prince George's. So a room full of Black lawyers together with Black legislators together. And as I spoke to some of the people in the room, Black attorneys who work very hard every day, who typically keep their head down and go to work, several of them said, I came out to this event because I want to know what we can do, how we can push back, what laws are happening at a state level, what protections are we putting in place for people. His brand of awfulness is driving people to advocacy and activism and pulling folks together who otherwise might have just sat on the sidelines and let politics take its course. But people are coming out and coming together. And I think once you ignite that sort of unity and that spirit of activism, we might have people engaged who otherwise we never would have got.
So folks coming out that would have sat on the sidelines, because I was looking at, a lot of the government workers, they live in Alexandria, Virginia. 75% of the homes down there are now on the market because of jobs. And that's crazy, But I'm glad to see that you guys are in there kicking over stones and frying everything up to let them know that this is not going to be no easy win. You got to start at the bottom. It's like building your house. If your base is jacked up, the rest of the house don't matter. You got to have a strong base, a strong foundation to put that house on. And so you got me going in Psalm major mode, so I'm going to turn you over to Armin.
Hey, Senator, before I go to the next question, Carlisa Finney gave you a nice, can you read that?
Oh, that's wonderful. Senator Henson, I have spoken the need to change laws and strengthen instead of dividing families. Yes, we have generations of families who are eligible for financial support, forcing one-parent households. She is absolutely right. We know you'll support those jobs. Thank you, Carlisa, for your work and everything that she's done over decades and generations of making sure that kids have access to education. Carlisa is a true champion.
Yeah. We're going to do some collaboration in the near future. Carlisa in the show. I spoke to her last week about a few things, but talk briefly about, there are plenty of women who paved the way. Do you celebrate or consider a mentor that you celebrate today?
That is an amazing question. When I look at the door that I have been able to open, even though I'm the first Black woman to serve in this role, I am very clear that I am not the first Black woman who was qualified to serve in this role. It was simply an absence of opportunity that wasn't afforded to other women who could have and would have done this job with distinction. So there are so many Black women who paved the way. I got my start on the Annapolis City Council. Only 5 Black women have ever served on the Annapolis City Council. 5 women over the entire history of the city of Annapolis, founded in the 1700s. Only 5 Black women have ever served. And the first one was Cynthia Abney Carter, who won by a write-in campaign to serve on the city council. And I was able to look at her as an example of grassroots leadership. There was nobody but the community that was pushing her, and that's who she was accountable to, and that's who she showed her support right back to, was the community that was there for her. I came into the legislature after we lost Mike Bush. Mike Bush was the delegate for pretty much all of my life, but he was also the Speaker of the House of Delegates. So this is arguably the second or third most powerful position in the entire state. And who replaced Mike Bush as the speaker? But a Black woman, Adrienne Jones, who I got to serve with her as the Speaker of the House of Delegates. So to see her leadership in action and to serve with her together, it's been incredible.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, talk briefly about your child online protection legislation. Talk briefly about that.
Yeah. And so you said at one point in the conversation that maybe we was going to, start a little trouble and kick up a little dust. And I think that's the point in the conversation we have reached, because my child online protection bill came to me by way of a young man who was an intern in my office. And my brand of politics, I was raised, a God-fearing person, growing up in a family that serves our community. And sometimes some of the things that people ask you to do and support in politics are just a line in the sand for me. And I have not been able to go along with everything that people want done. And so someone said to me, why not, instead of just being put in a position where you say no, why not put other people in a position where they say yes? Say yes to the things that are important to you, like protecting our children, protecting the innocence of children, so that childhood means something and you have an opportunity to grow up and to learn things in an age-appropriate way when you are ready and you know what to do with that information. So the Online Child Protection Act, it puts some standards in place, or it did not pass, but it would have put standards in place in accessing certain content online. We had a young lady come in and testify in support of the bill, and she talked about growing up in foster care. And she said when she was in foster care, going house to house, it was a lot of times where people weren't keeping a close eye on her. And she had what everybody has. She had a cell phone. And with her cell phone, she was able to access some things online that kids shouldn't see. Long story short, she wound up being caught up in sex trafficking and all sorts of awful things because of the folks that had access to her online. So what my bill would have done is it would have made sure our children have safe spaces online, and they're not simply out there waiting for predators to come in and do what predators do.
Awesome. On you, Ayana.
So, talk about some of the barriers and then some of the triumphs of simply being a woman in politics. What, it is Women's History Month. And so we definitely want to highlight that. And just what are some of the barriers that you faced? I know that you've had trailblazers before you that have paved the way, but personally, what are some of the things that you have faced that you can talk about here on the show? And then what are some of the triumphs that just being a woman in the space has afforded you as well?
I will start with the triumphs in being a woman. I had a colleague, and when I was in the House of Delegates, a colleague of mine, a fellow delegate, she was pregnant and we were doing a baby shower for her. We had to delay it until after she had the baby, so we were doing it after the baby. And she was sharing some of the details of delivery and what her experience was like. And one of the men in the room, who was a delegate, said, stop right there. I don't want to hear that. And we said, wait, you are on the Health and Government Operations Committee. You are one of only 16 people that is going to set all of our healthcare policy and all of our healthcare budget. And you can't hear the details of childbirth from your colleague?
Wow.
So it brought home to me the importance of having women at the table and having women as a part of the conversations, because the decisions are being made about us but it's not always made with and for us if we are not a part of those conversations. So I think the triumph is being able to shape and craft policy to support the journeys in life that are unique to women, you know?
Absolutely.
Enjoyed that. In terms
I
of
love
some of
that.
the barriers are some of the same ones that women face in the corporate world, some of the same ones I face in the legal profession, being an attorney. There is a constant and persistent underestimation of women, just in general, in our society. When you look at Kamala Harris and the campaign that she ran to run for president of the United States, the way that every ounce of who she was combed over, raked over, criticized, from the way that she delivered a speech. Don't be too passionate because then you're angry. From the way that she pushed back on folks who tried to promulgate lies against her. Don't do that. You know, you're being too spicy. She had to be so measured and so over prepared and over calculated. And her opponent put none of that same time or attention and energy into the way he presented himself to the American people, or to even having a serious plan. But she not only had to have a plan, she had to articulate it. Her silk press had to be right while she did it. She had to be nice enough to deliver it. And every part of her was raked over. So as a woman in politics, you need to be prepared for the increased level of scrutiny that you'll receive.
Absolutely. And so how do we navigate some of those barriers? Speaking to women, whether they're in politics, whether they're in the corporate world or otherwise, what are some ways that, or some strategies that we could use to navigate some of those barriers?
First, support each other. Every woman who has made it to a pinnacle where other women are not at, if you look to your left and your right and you don't see another woman, pull one up and bring another woman up with you. Always be a champion of making sure that women are at the table, and women who understand the mission of what it means to support other women are the ones that you have at the table with you. And then call it out. When you see people overlooking your sister, overlooking other women, not embracing what it takes to support our leadership. I had a series of bills today, bill hearings, where I was supporting our childcare industry. When we look at who's hurt when child care providers can't provide their service, it's women who stay home and provide that care, who tap out of the labor market so that they can be moms and wives and take care of their family. So if we know the child care industry is struggling, let's make it stronger, because we know that will support women. So call out those things that you know are going to be barriers to your sisters. And third thing, always be willing to just do the work. When you have to work twice as hard, even if it's not fair, work twice as hard.
Come on, see it.
I love it. Powerful strategies. Powerful. Roger, it's on you.
Yeah, I know Mrs. Carter. I know her personally because that's Dwayne's mom she talking about.
Ferguson.
That's Dwayne's mom. That's who he's talking about. Kevin Abney's aunt, and you and Kevin played football together since I was teeny weeny guys.
Yeah.
And so her husband was going through some changes with the VA, and she needed me to write a letter for her. So I wrote her letter. But here's the funny part. I wrote the letter and everything is, she called me on the phone and said, your letter is perfect, except you're missing a comma on such and such and a comma on another spot. So I was going to give you an A, but you get an A minus.
I love it.
Love that woman to death. I said, do you want me to type it over? She said, no, I said, I'm going to send it forward. And because of that letter, her husband ended up getting the VA recommendation he should have gotten years ago.
Yeah.
And men and babies, my grandfather always told me, don't start nothing you can't finish. When my wife was having kids, I was right in there with her all 3 times.
That's right.
So because you don't start nothing you can't finish. So, and I was in there all 3 times, even when she had a cesarean. Matter of fact, when she had the cesarean, the guy next to me, he was a medic. He had to leave the room.
Oh, Lord.
You're supposed to be doing this all the time. The doctor looked at me and said, I was like, was E6? He said, Son Parker, he ain't going to be working here no more, right? I said, yeah, I got it. But I understand. Now, men in leadership, Have you, the best leader I had in the military was a Sergeant First Class Singletary. She was the best leader I ever had. And when I was a Sergeant Major, she was retired. I still would call her on the phone. Have you ran into situations where men didn't want to listen to women when it comes to leadership because they were women?
Absolutely, 100%. We just went through a process where, so I got to the House of Delegates. I shared that I ran for city council in 2017. I was appointed to the House of Delegates after we lost Mike Bush in 2019. I ran in 2022 for my own full term as a delegate. And then when my senator went to Congress in 2025, I was appointed to the Senate in 2026. So my career trajectory have been 2 elections and 2 appointments. That's how I got to the Senate. Well, when I came to the Senate, they needed to fill the vacancy in my delegate seat because that meant I couldn't serve as delegate and senator. So there was an opening for the delegate and they needed to do an appointment. And so the people who came out for the appointment, they were being interviewed by the committee that was making the selection. And one of the women mentioned being a mom of twins. And she talked about being a mom of twins. And one of the members on the committee, a man, asked her, how will you manage that while you are being the delegate as well? And so many of the women in the room were offended. But I said, I understand the offense, but also look at the landscape. The men who came out for the position as delegates were very young, men in their 20s, men who, hadn't gotten to the place in life yet where you start a family or where you are dealing with some of the greater challenges that come along with owning things and having those responsibilities. They were much younger. And I realized that too often women, we second guess ourselves. We have been taught to make sure that you can check every box, you have every T crossed, every I dotted before you put yourself out there for something great. But the confidence that comes with men, even as young men, they feel like, oh, I can do this. It doesn't matter if I'm still in my 20s. It doesn't matter if I don't have, kids in our schools or any of these other things in life that women might think they need to qualify them. Men have been instilled with that confidence that, no, you go and you take every opportunity. So I can definitely see the disparities in how women move through situations and navigate, and how we have empowered men in a much different way to move through and navigate.
So with that being said, you jumped into my next question. How is your son doing? Because he got
amazing.
He got super mom. So, he can't make no mistake.
My Lord.
Mom out here blocking bullets and whatnot, so I got to be straight. So how old is he now?
I'm blessed. He is 21 years old and he is amazing. I'm telling you, I'm so thankful. I know when I grew up with my dad as a pastor, there were many times where because he was a pastor, he was serving our community. So there were things that I was doing as his daughter that he might not be at because he was at a hospital with someone whose loved one was about to pass away and he was offering prayer. He was making sure the church was cared for and the building was right. So he was doing church building maintenance. He was so present and focused on his calling from God that there were times where, as my dad, me and my sisters, we didn't have that time with him. And I know that the same is true for my son. Because of the time I spend in the community and representing and the work that I've done from my city council days to delegate to senator, that there are times where he probably wants his mother somewhere, but I am serving my community. So my prayer had always been to God that he would redeem the time, that he would make sure that there was no lack in his life, that every need that he had would be met. And that even when I couldn't be there, that the presence of God would surround him and propel his life. And that has been true every day.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah, he was blessed in many ways.
Yeah.
And with the mom, the family, his grandparents, when you come into a family like that, that's the ultimate blessing. I always feel that I was blessed to be in the family that I was born in, because I was a knucklehead and I did knucklehead stuff. Almond ain't gonna say that, and I ain't gonna tell you, that Almond was right there with me. Me and Almond been friends since 3rd grade. I know all about it. So we did some knucklehead stuff, but our families pulled us out. And I had a no nonsense dad. He passed away a couple of years ago, and growing up, I thought he was a butthead. But I realized when I became a man, he was everything. He was right.
Yes.
He was right. And it helped me to become the man that I am. But, I am so proud of you, and a fellow Annapolitan, and because I was looking at your Facebook thing, I said, she all over it. She just ain't got on her S and her cape on today, but she all over it.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn you back over to Armin.
As we begin winding things down, Senator, you have several opportunities that you present, such as scholarships, internships, the Legends from the Past and Future show. We're going to have an event on the 22nd of March, and half the proceeds are going to scholarships, internships. We have an intern that works for us on the show.
Wonderful.
So how can we partnership with the senator and her programs when it comes to opportunities?
That would be wonderful. Young people are my passion. If I haven't inspired somebody to want to keep doing this work, then it will all be for nothing if somebody doesn't come in and pick up this mantle and take this thing even further down the field. So you're absolutely right. We have our scholarship program. I'm accepting applications right now. The scholarship deadline is April 1st. So you have until April 1st to get your request in. Again, we have given out over $275,000 in scholarships to young people, and we want to keep blessing people into the future. We have about $50,000 this year that we'll give out, and we try to really make it a blessing when we find young folks who are in need of that extra push to be able to finish. I have the shadow program. My chief of staff is here. Burl, can you come here, please? My chief of staff is here with me, even at this late hour. We have a shadow program where we bring young people into the office, and Burl is the captain of the team. She brings them in. They go with me on the Senate floor. They go with me to bill hearings, voting sessions, press conferences, whatever is on my schedule for the day. She plugs them right in, and they are here, and they learn how to serve, and hopefully they leave with a passion for it. We have a summer internship program. Last summer, Burl had 5 young people who she had with her all summer. And she instilled so much into those young people. I mean, they left knowing how to present themselves, how to dress for success, how to talk to people in powerful positions, how to show up on time, how to write a report, how to be accountable for your workday. I mean, the work that she has done has been phenomenal, and we will be looking for more young people this summer who will come into this office so we can train up the next generation of leaders. And then there's all of our special programs. Every year we do a college tour where we take kids from communities who otherwise wouldn't get a chance to see a college campus, and we take them to a college campus and we show them around. We tour the dorm rooms with them. We have lunch in the cafeteria. We talk to the admissions officers, and we give them that hands-on feel for what it would be like to be in college. We have an event that we do for the community every year called Power in the Park, where this is for the families, where we bring them out and we educate them on energy options. Everybody's BGE bill is high right now. Burl is getting calls. She's helping people troubleshoot. And we bring them out with the providers, and we show them what programs and services exist. So my office is based on outreach and community outreach and always being a presence. Burl, did you want to add anything?
I told y'all she's scary smart.
Man, look, I'm telling you.
She's brilliant. That's why I'm here.
That's my chief. She keeps it all together.
So this is the beginning of a working relationship together, correct?
Correct. You got it.
Now, can I invite you out to our event on the 22nd to honor some honorees?
She's the boss.
She's the boss? Well, she gave the thumbs up, correct?
Yes, she did. She
All right.
did. She makes sure I'm in the right place at the right time. And this sounds like the right event. So thank you for the invite.
But we define the word partnership. That works both ways.
Absolutely. You got it.
We're going to be calling you in April. We're going to need some help.
You know you're on live, right?
Yeah.
We're going to need a lot of help with our special project. We're going to need a lot of help with our special project.
I love it.
Not a problem, sis.
Now, how our audience, how can they get in touch with you and learn more about these special programs? I'm going to put it in the chat.
Thank you. Perfect. I have my website, ShanekaHenson.com. So that's ShanekaHenson.com. You can go there. You can sign up for my newsletter. We put out a newsletter every other week, and we have resources. It is resource rich. The purpose of the newsletter is to share with folks something that they can use to help and support their life. So we will advertise all the events there. They can contact my office, 410-841-3578. They can ask about any of the things I've mentioned tonight or ask to be added to the newsletter. And you can track Burl down if you see her in the grocery store, if you see her out in public, ask her what's next, and she'll be ready to share.
If you had one last thing to leave to the audience, but before you answer this, all right, Argo Duenas. This is what she
Yes, that's my family.
That's your family?
That's my family. Yes, indeed. I appreciate her. Her work in the area of health and wellness was something that she's been so dedicated to over the years, and it's meant the world to us as a family. And she shared that gift with the community, and now the work she's doing on reparations, she's just another true champion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what encouraging, positive, inspirational word would you like to leave to the viewers out there?
Just one word, or may I?
The floor is yours.
Wonderful. So when I went to Coppin State University, my alma mater, I got to share remarks at the convocation there when they were welcoming in the new incoming class of students. And one of the things I shared with them was the dynamics of an eagle, because that's the mascot for Coppin is an eagle. And when eagles are in a storm, when they are in a tumultuous time, that's when they fly their highest and they fly their best. Other birds are challenged by the storm, their cadence is thrown off, but eagles fly above the storm clouds. They ascend to the highest levels, and they even ride the tumultuousness of a storm. So it is those turbulent times that pushes them to the highest and pushes them to be their best and their strongest and their fastest self. So we might feel like we are in times where things are uncertain and people don't know what to expect from day to day. But I promise you, if you push yourself to ride higher and ride above those storm clouds and the turbulence, you will get the very best out of yourself during times like these.
Wow. What else can be said? You know, on that note, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give away a gift to one of our viewers out there. So my number 240 603 1743. And the sixth caller who can tell us how old was the senator when she had her first child or only child?
See who's paying attention. Back to school. See who's paying attention. Let's see who's paying attention.
The sixth caller, the number 240-603-1743. You caller number one, call back.
And don't be texting the senator asking her either. and no Googling. No Googling. There's too many devices out there for them.
Caller number two, call back.
No Googling. No calling her family members either. No calling her family members. You know, they try it all.
Caller number four, call back.
I like this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to watch them, though, because they will use those devices. They're going to try to cheat.
We have a winner, maybe. So how old was she when she had her first child? Only child?
19.
She was what?
19.
What's your name?
All right.
Abrams.
Jag Abrams?
I don't know if we can give it to Jack.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a free ticket to the event on the 22nd, okay?
Awesome.
Outstanding.
That's awesome.
I want you to text me your information, all right, so I can put your name on the list, okay? All right.
Hey, I think you should give it to somebody else. You just gave it to. He just gave it to Jack because Jack played football in Annapolis too. And football players always trying to stick together.
And he was the sixth caller, Roger.
No, hey, we already have a winner.
Alma might have told him call when, text. You know how them devices.
Really?
So, Ayana, what do you have for the Senate?
Just, thank you so much for a wonderful interview. Thank you for all you're doing for all of us in the state of Maryland. We really appreciate you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Roger?
I go ahead and agree with her. Thank you so much for giving these young ladies, they know where you come from, that they could do it too. If you could do it, I could do it. Your inspiration to these young ladies is, you can't even measure it, And we're going to let you slide on that Navy thing because it should have been. I'm good.
Deja, are you there, Deja?
Yes, I'm here.
Say something kind to the senator before
I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to be on our show tonight.
Thank you.
And Senator, let's not let this be the last time. Let's go ahead and begin working together and let's try to get you back.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, indeed.
Thank you for being on the show tonight. We want to thank everybody who was viewing tonight. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the show. And don't forget about our event on March 22nd from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at the Community Life Center, Mount Olive. We hope to see everybody there. And next week, we have a follow-up to the senator who happens to be her what, Senator?
Family.
Families. We're going to have another historical powerhouse next week, Cynthia Carter. Until then, see you next week. Peace.
Good night.
Peace.